Good morning, FlossTube. It's Cowgirl Kate, and I'm here with an update on the Midsummer Night Fairy. And what I'd like to feature in this video is all the lessons that doing Middy's wings have taught me. We'll get into some close-ups in a little bit. Now I have the old pattern. This project is at least 16 years old. I don't have the exact date that I started it because that was lost on a computer that crashed, but going off of my son's ages, it's at least 17 years old. On the old pattern, it says that you will need 3 spools of the fuchsia braid, and that's blending filament 024HL, and that is this pretty fuchsia color. It says that you need 2 spools of this, but the only areas that you use that are in these pink spots up here on her wings. 1 spool is plenty. You're not going to need a whole lot. Certainly not 2, because yeah, it's a tiny area. You're not going to need 2 spools of that. For the other Krennic, which was the 044, which is the sparkly rainbow kind of turquoise pink and yellow, and that is the dark areas in her wings. This is called for 3 of them, and I burned through 2 and only needed a very little of the 3rd one. I think maybe 10 inches off of the 3rd one. So if you were more conservative with it, I really wasn't, because I just did normal, but there is that. You don't need a whole lot off of that 2nd one. Now, for her general information, she is stitched on the recommended 32 count Stony Point Perman Linen by Washelt. Granted, her colors look really good on it. I'm not displeased with that. But if I were to do it over, I would pick a hand dye. And back then I wanted to do her on a normal, I don't even know what color it was, but it was kind of a dusty, purpley, darker color, because I thought these lighter beads would really pop out. But the lady that owned the store was like, "Oh no, absolutely not. The pattern says use this. That's what you have to do." So I went with her advice, because this project and Titania were my first Mirabilias and my first venture away from kits, like from dimensions and stuff. So I did a dimension kit and then jumped right into kitting my own and Mirabilias and linen and beads and all that sort of fun stuff. Right off the deep end. How I have attached her beads is I have used, let me get a better picture of it here. This end isn't so worn. I've used the Stitch Through Invisible Thread, and I got this at Walmart. It's not that expensive. I've been using this forever. At least 16 years, because I only did one project with the floss, and that was before I even started her. So there are those. That is what I used to bead her. And I used a half stitch, 1 strand. And I've also mentioned how I handle that kind of beading thread in a video pertaining to it. So let's get down and I guess, dissect these wings. Up here, I'm just going to move the camera. Up here, in these sections where you see all the shading and the different colors, where else? Oh, and there's some up here in fuchsia. Every bit of her wing has blending filament with it. Everything. This brighter pink in the middle. Get up here real good. That's a floss with the blending filament. Down here, these browns. That's like her hair through the wing. That's got blending filament that is that blue rainbow color. Here's skin with the rainbow color. Down here is like the yellow that comes off of these beads. But it's yellow floss with the blending filament. This here, that's number 4 braid with blending filament. And this stuff here, this symbol in her wings, was probably the biggest pain in the butt, because the number 4 braid is rather abrasive going through the fabric, especially on this 32 count. It was rather abrasive going through there, and it would shred the blending filament like you wouldn't believe. And it was a really big pain in the butt because the blending filament kept breaking. So what I did was I would stitch all the braid, because it's like it goes up in wherever that symbol was, but this is the biggest concentration of it. Wherever this symbol was, I just stitched the braid by itself, and then I went over the top of it with the blending filament later. And I just did a half stitch with 2 strands. I'm going to back up here. Go over here. There's nothing to distract. This is how I handled the blending filament itself. I just ran a long strand of it through the needle and then put the needle in the middle, so I had 2 very long tails. And once you get a few stitches in, it's a lot easier to deal with that way. At least it was for me. And to go over pretty much everything in her wings that called for it on top of another color is how I handled it. Now, early on, I did do these spots early on, and I did mix the floss with the blending filament, and they aren't, I mean, if you look in there, they're sparkly, sure, but they're not as vibrant as this one, because this one I came back later and went over the top. So of the 2, I think that one's a lot more sparkly. And that's how I handled her wings. Now, if I am ever to do this project again, I would not do it on 32 count because the beads. Now, yeah, the beads look so cool, but stitching them on this fabric was different. I'm used to doing 28 count, using a full cross to anchor my beads, and so this is kind of different for me. The beads lay differently, and way back when, that was the advice, was if your beads are really crowded on 32 count, use a half stitch so they lay slanted. And they do lay slanted. And they do fit better. Now up in here, up in these, the top section of her wings, it was working really great. I was just tickled to death with how it was. But you still can tell that she's got a lot of room. you know, there's a lot more room for these beads. Down along here and out along here, I've added just a few. I've just sprinkled them in along the edges, just to kind of give it more pizzazz, I guess. I don't know. I like beads. But down in here, in the lower part of her wings, you can see how crammed they are. And I'm not afraid to admit that they are not lying very very nicely. I mean, compared to when you get down where there's just one or two beads, or even in these ropes, they lay kind of nicely. Up in here, they are so crowded, and I have even left beads off just to make them fit. I had started coming down this way, and I was going down row by row, and they were getting so mushed and so squished out of place. So right about in here, I started going down, and they were still, you know, getting really squished, and I was getting really frustrated. And then down around here, I started going horizontally across, just to see if that would help squash those suckers in. And they do lay a little better going the horizontally across than they did up here going down row by row. So that was educational. I learned that one the hard way, but I wasn't about to rip all of this out. I mean, forget it, that's done and it'll live that way, and you know, it's shiny and sparkly, and I'm happy with that. But when I come to this side of her wings, I knew it was going to kind of be the same thing, and so I just, everything after this point on, I started doing rows across, and they laid a lot better using the half stitch. So that was a concern that I hadn't run into before, but you know, sometimes you learn on the fly what you gotta do. Changes that I have done to this pattern so far. She has the over one skin. I've added the violin. I'm hoping to get that charted up this summer, and I'll put that on a picture or whatever on my blog, so if people are even interested, you know, they can just have fun with it. It'll just be the violin, this arm, and like this arm to here, and like this arm underneath the other one. So not a whole lot you can do without the pattern of Middy, but that's as it should be. If you want to do those changes, you're more than welcome. I did add these beads. They're the same ones that are in the loops down here, and I just added it for fun. I might also add some more of those onto the bead ropes on her skirt. I just think it looks fun, more bohemian, I guess. I also shortened up this stick, and I didn't make it near as thick. And also on this side, I made it a lot smaller and shorter. There should be a bunch of stuff out here. And on mine there's not going to be, because I really hated working on that stick. But now that she's got this much done, I can go in and finish working on the leaves and the stems. Now that I have some beads around to know where they go, I don't have near the counting to deal with, because I can use those as a guideline. I haven't added extra beads down through here a whole lot. I think I added a few in here and a few over here. When I get more into finishing off this, and I also have to go down here and finish off this section of the wing, because it looks similar to this one, but I need to move my Q-stamps. But I will also be kind of sprinkling a few beads out around the edges and whatever. finishing up my leaves and vines. Same on this side. And then her skirt. She's got a lot of skirt to go. Now as for the violin, she's normally supposed to be holding a magic wand, like up here, and then the wand hangs down and there's a big swirl of beads that are supposed to look like the magic. Instead of those, I will probably use music note charms and just kind of sprinkle those down around like where those magic lights would have been. I have a couple options for those. I just haven't ordered them yet. I want them to be pretty tiny, and you know, Hobby Lobby or Michael's might already have something, so if I can find it there, you know, that's easier than shipping it. Well, maybe, depending on how long I have to wait. The other thing was, in my other video about beading Middy, I showed how to attach the crystals, and here is a close-up on how they look with the little beads sitting on top. And I see that my camera battery is blinking at me, so I better wrap this up. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I hope you enjoyed these lessons that Middy has taught me. So thanks for watching. Bye.